now. We propose this house will prevent critical service from striking. Definition: critical services from striking means that are totally not going to work and just strike. There will be no services from any of them. Framework: which has given them more benefit to society should win this debate. Clarification: first, we're only standing view on a moral society. Second, we're only talking about whether or should we prevent the critical service from striking, not which policy we're going to use to solve the problem. Three, preventing the critical service from striking means that we stop the workers for critical service from striking. We let them work with courage. Instead of allowing one worker to work for one person, we can pay more money or give reward to the workers, and it is worth it. Argument 1, security and healthcare. Subpoint A, some critical services such as defense and border security are crucial for national security. Allowing strike in these areas could compromise the country's ability to protect its citizens and defend against threats. Strikes in the healthcare sector can lead to delayed treatment, canceled surgeries, to insufficient emergency care, putting patients' life at risk. Ensuring continuous operation in hospital and clinics is permanent to public health. Impact: looking at the long run, it seems to be more reasonable to let the critical service worker not to strike and always be online. If not, this impact will impact all individuals, and is bad for the world's stability. Secondly, the world's lose its safety ban. It's dangerous and the impact has huge magnitude. Subpoint B is emergency service. Police, fire departments, and emergency medical service are essential for responding to crisis. Strikes in these sectors can significantly delay response time, potentially leading to increased mortality and morbidity. Impact: the instability in the country may cause billions of deaths. Argument 2 is economy. Subpoint A, economy stability. Strikes in crucial sectors can have a significant impact on the economy. By ensuring that essential services continue to operate without interruption, economic stability is preserved, preventing potential financial losses for businesses and individuals. Example: during the COVID-19 pandemic, healthcare workers in some countries went on strike to demand better working conditions and resources. These strikes, while highlighting the important issues, also put additional strain on the healthcare system already dealing with the challenges of the pandemic. Subpoint B, investor confidence. A stable environment where critical services are functioning without the threat of strikes can foster investor confidence. Investors are more likely to invest in a country or region that demonstrate reliability and consistency, providing essential services. Subpoint C is community of business operation. Industry rely on critical services such as transportation, energy, and communication to function smoothly. Preventing strikes ensure that these essential services remain optional, allowing businesses to operate without interruption that could lead to financial losses. Impact: price stability. Economic stability helps to maintain price stability by keeping inflation in check. When prices remain relatively stable, consumers have greater purchasing power, and business can plan for the future with more certainty. I'll get a POI. 3, 2, 1. I'll move on to argument 3 then. Dependence on services. Vulnerable population, including the elderly, disabled, and low-income individual, rely heavily on the public and emergency services. Strike and disproportionately affect these groups, exacerbating inequality. Example: a public transportation strike can leave low-income individual without affordable means to travel for work or essential services. As this topic has said, will prevent critical service from striking. Then these critical services also include the transportation services. Then all poor people's life is going to be in trouble because they're not going to be even able to go to their work. So the impact will be we protect the vulnerable people in the society and maintain their needs to everyday security. All in all, we're proud to propose, and please vote for the government side.
27 firefighters died following Chernobyl, and many more were hospitalized due to radiation. 72 peace officers were killed in line of duty during the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Critical service workers served the nation by rushing to scenes of pain and destruction, putting their lives at stake in order for the public good. It is devastating that the government insists on violating the fundamental rights of critical service workers, and this motion must not pass. So 2 points: why the motion is principally unjust, and second, the motion erodes the efficiency of critical services. So before that, I would like to state some rebuttals. The government may say that critical services are a matter of life and that death as well as striking will have a negative economic impact. To answer these arguments with one response, the principal right to assembly for critical service workers cannot be eliminated on the measure of social utility. After all, harvesting organs from a non-consenting adult to save 6 others would be practically enhancing social utility, yet we would all condemn this as a violation of an individual the individual's bodily autonomy. Similarly, there are intrinsic freedoms that cannot be deprived due to due to practical concerns. Increase in compensation and benefits for critical service workers gained through strikes enhances the quality of a nation's critical services. In the long term, allowing strikes enhances social utility. So moving on to my first argument, there is a necessity for the option to strike. Principally, the motion fails to take into consideration that the vulnerable circumstances that the critical service employees are put into every single day. Critical service employees frequently risk their lives for the societal good. Doctors are exposed to high-risk environments where they can be infected. Police officers fight crime face to face, and firefighters' main job is to jump into fires. However, these sacrifices are not properly compensated nor provided proper welfare, such as fair work hours or PTSD treatment, due to the excuse of state budget restraints. Plus, critical services are often convenient scapegoats victimized by dissatisfied clients, the media, and politicians. In contrast, they are legally protected even less than the average office workers in many countries. Banning the right to strike for critical workers would be abuse of vulnerable employees on a governmental level. See, practically, this vocational discrimination causes more disrespect of critical service employees by the public. Contempt and disrespect for firefighters and police officers in many nations is rampant. The average citizen is frequently under the perception that these critical service employees can be taken as granted and can be requested to perform trivial tasks for non-emergency situations. The biggest cause for such disrespect is shaped by the government's treatment of its very employees, no thank you, as second-tier citizens whose fundamental rights of association can be violated. So moving on to my second argument, the prevention of striking will result in demotivation of critical service workers. So the efficiency of critical services is falling on two levels. First, the current critical service workers are discouraged from working hard. Emergency room doctors are on alert 24/7, and firefighters risk their lives every time on duty. However, low wages and poor treatment will make them doubt and resent their jobs. Police officers will slack off, and firefighters will become more risk-averse and not respond to overly dangerous situations. This endangers the quality of services that the public rely on, worsening public safety overall. Second, poor working conditions negatively affect work performance. Not having proper equipment or being sleep deprived increases probabilities for mistakes or accidents. When careful precision and focus is required in critical services due to the dangers of the job, both critical service workers and the public would suffer. So why does having the option of industrial action uniquely solve this? Because the consequences of a strike will have so much gravity compared to other alternatives such as peaceful protest or SNS posts. Since politicians do not wish to be responsible for the public damages the strike will have, they will be more eager to negotiate. Note that this mechanism does not rely on an actual strike happening, but just the announcement of a planned strike will have the same effect due to active media coverage and awareness. So the last result is always necessary in the most urgent of situations, yet we have never given that option to the people at the front lines. It is actually time that we appreciate the workers that sacrifice their lives for the public good. So proud to oppose.
So no judge, I will first rebut what our opponent said, and now first judge, our opponent said about there will be like critical services puts workers' lives at risk. But judge, and they also said that like people, those governments, they wouldn't even our opponents literally just said those governments wouldn't give any like wouldn't help them even if they're at risk. But judge, first this is wrong because actually we already have legalizations to protect the safety standards. First, governments can attack the enforced legalization that mandates safe working conditions that actually also has compensations and also adequate staffing levels for critical service workers. There is already legal protection. There is already in the status quo, there is already legal protection for those workers. This is actually a fact. And secondly, strong frameworks can be established to monitor and enforce the safety standards, preventing the conditions that often lead to strikes. This approach ensures that the critical services workers are protected while maintaining uninterrupted service for the public. And also status quo is right now is that governments, there is already legalizations. Like there's actually a lot of in many countries there are already legalizations which says that there's already legalizations protecting them, but there are already labor laws and like regulatory oversights ensuring that higher standards of worker safety and compensation, reducing the need for strikes and critical services. There is already legal laws for this. So judge, I don't see the reason for what they're saying about like very bad like environment for workers and also the very safety standards and such. And secondly, our opponents also say about lower salaries And they also said about the individual that individual need to rest and such. But Judge, first we simply outweigh our impact. Judge, you should know that actually with nurses, let's just do an example. For example, if nurses all go to quitting their jobs and these such of things, there is actually it's not common sense that actually most even like if I'm not wrong, 10% of the whole patient's death rate is all caused by nurses staff. It went by because there's like a lack of nurses staffs. 10% of nurses died. 10% of patients died because of this. Our opponents are saying that they will even let the majority die just because to let these nurses just have a break or such. And secondly, Judge, we can prove to you that there isn't really a lot of labor shortages since nurses that for example, again, nurses are provide, which is actually let's just say it's a case study. That nurses is like most nurses are LNs or RNs, which these are all VT nurses or TAC nurses, means that they have a high salary as well. Okay, moving to the second thing, lastly, our opponents also said that actually they say that for the individuals, so so first so this is that's bad to the individuals. First one, there I think their points is first there will be low salary, and secondly they say that yeah mostly say it's lower salary, but I think everybody rebutted it. And also they said that the workers nobody thanks for the workers for the sacrifice, but just this is simply why would they need the thanks for their sacrifice? The government gives them what they need, and secondly, Judge, they say that simply people wouldn't thank for first they don't have any answer for that, and secondly, Judge, this is like first they literally just said people are not thanking them for it. But first, this is simply moral kidnapping. Why would people, if they help somebody, then if the people didn't tell them that they're thank you or anything, doesn't mean that they're not thankful for what like there doesn't mean that they're not thankful for the workers' sacrifice. This is like only moral kidnapping what our opponents are trying to do. So just please ignore this. And lastly, Judge, our opponents so that lastly, our opponents are always keeping saying that we're not protecting them, but Judge, this is not true because there are also other alternatives. We tell you, Judge, that actually there that we tell you, Judge, that actually yeah, Judge, we tell you that there are also other alternatives for such like when like the government and these people when government try to protect them using legal laws, this actually is already being used by there are already laws to protect them. So, Judge, I believe there is any. So, just for reasons above, we are strong battle for the government side. Thank you.
We accept that there were strikes in the past which had severe consequences, but strikes will always happen since critical services are no different from any other industry, and every industry has dissatisfied workers and potential for unsanctioned protests. Then the question becomes, how do we contain these strikes or negotiate with angry unions to prevent the worst from happening? So before our last point on how legal channels prevent dangerous and unnecessary strikes, some responses. Firstly, government claims that this will cause backlash against critical service reforms because the supposed harms that they cause the people, such as the poor. However, when any government employee profession threatens to strike, such as teachers and public transportation conducts, they're always labeled as self-interested and inconsiderate. Yet, as a union composed of fully consenting and well-informed adults, they have the right to decide which method best forwards their political interests. And if a union deems that all alternatives have failed in bringing reform, and this is a last resort, the government team has no right to ban this, saying that there can be a possible backlash caused by critical service reforms. So, negative perception against critical service is also a marginal harm, since most citizens are already desensitized towards critical services. As our LO has already said, and contrary to what government claims, critical services are considered mere welfare programs that citizens are rightfully entitled to, not something that is actively appreciated. So this inaction also involves disagreeing with the wage increases of police officers or firefighters. Civilians would rather want better roads or renovation of old buildings in the status quo. Political opposition is nothing new. Secondly, government claims that there are other alternatives rather than strike in the event of unfair treatment. However, it is important to know that all other professions also have the alternatives to going on strike. Yet the right to assembly is still a fundamental right for all professions. Proposition still fails to give us a principled reason to discriminate against certain vocations. These alternatives take a much longer time to work, since it depends on the transition of political administrations or slow change of public perception. This is a time in which doctors can die due to lacking provisions or protective equipment in a pandemic setting, or firefighters suffering from unnecessary PTSD. Even though there may be initial blowback, we wish to quickly reform critical services through changing the way employers view critical service workers. The alternatives function only if the employer is aware in the event that employees are not cooperative in negotiations, and there is a possibility that employees may go on strike. In other words, the absence of striking as an option on the table makes all other options less likely to work. So moving on to our team's argument. Our team's third argument is that we would not prevent critical service workers from striking because it prevents illegal strikes. So during layers of analysis, even in jurisdictions where critical service strikes are criminalized, Sometimes industrial action happens illegally in regions with less state engagement or high rates of exploitation. The problem of these strikes is that they're uncoordinated and not properly announced to invite authorities to the negotiation table. This is exemplified by the illegal military police strike in Brazil due to low salaries. Local criminals exploited the strike, leading to assault, carjacking, and looting. 215 people died during the 2 weeks of strike action, and the government and strike workers were not able to reach consensus due to vague demands and lack of proper communication. B. Authorized industrial action changes this by establishing legal channels for coordination and negotiation. There is a clear union leadership that outlines specific strategies, realistic demands, and rules that the strike should follow. This prevents strikes from becoming violent or overly prolonged, which can increase havoc that is caused. So C. Also, negotiations become easier. Experienced unions can propose realistic demands and make necessary compromises. In response, authorities know who they need to reach out to and can directly negotiate. So this prevents the worst case of strikes from actually happening, minimizing the probability of harms from proposition. And for this reason, please cast a negative ballot. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna start with the framework. Since our opponent did not have a framework, then we should use our framework. It's saying that which house gives more benefit to society shall win the debate. Many say about utilitarianism. So saying that which side can bring more benefit to the majority shall win this debate. So now, Judge, we're gonna move on to the clash points. First of all, I'm gonna do a clarification for the status quo. First of all, we're gonna say that our opponent that actually keeps saying that the workers will sacrifice, the workers have low wages. But Judge, actually the status quo is not like this. The status quo is saying that those workers who work in the government who work in the critical services, the crucial services, they actually have the social benefits. The social benefits is quite high, meaning that they're not what they're saying that about low wages. Actually, they have social benefits. They benefit the individual and also the majority, meaning that there's no sense of our opponent saying that we're like maybe say that they're having a bad working condition. It is not like this. Judge, imagine that you're actually a worker working for the government. Will actually the government do bad thing to you? This is impossible, right? The government will give you social benefits, and also there's like you have the retirement salary either. And then move on to another. Second, it's saying that there's already labor shortages problem happening now, judges. This is very important. Labor shortages is causing people dying already. So meaning that we're actually lacking workers in the critical services. So judge, imagine that. There's as my partner have mentioned that if we are right, if the data if we are right, if we remember that right, there's like 10% people dying each year just because of lacking nurses. And nurses is actually a critical could be say a critical services. They work for the critical services, and that's a lot of people dying because of lacking nurses. So meaning that the people they could be cured, but they are dying because of lacking nurses. So meaning that judge, we can actually change this movement, change this type of like status quo by banning the striking. So this is what we are trying to say. And then move on to the clash points. First of all, you're saying that is this actually the government's right or not? Our opponents are keeping saying that government do not have the right to do those things. They have the right to strike or not. But judge, we have told you that government already give them social benefits, and that means that they already give them like social benefits, and also a lot of benefits are given to them, and also retirement salary, meaning that the government not say sacrifice, the government contribute to them, and they should contribute to the society either. This is a thing that is it's a double-edged thing. Like you're not saying the single. It's like you contribute to someone else and they are contributing to you either. This is a reasonable thing. Not like what our opponents saying that you do not have the right to do those things. What they are saying is not reasonable, and they are doing moral kidnapping, which are saying that they say that like we are not thanks to people that sacrifice. But judge, actually we have to do that. Those people are protected by the government. They're not really likely to sacrifice. As I've told you that the legislative protection and safety standards, government can enact and enforce legislations that mandate safe working conditions, appropriate compensation, and adequate staffing levels for critical service workers. These legal protections ensure that workers' rights and safety are prioritized without the need for strikes. So judge, actually we have told you that the government is protecting the critical services workers. So the critical services workers, they are trying trying to contribute to the society. And second, Judge, what our opponents are trying to say that those workers, they're actually being harmed. But Judge, the thing is that we're not forcing people to be those type of critical services workers. If they choose to be the critical services workers, it's not what we're forcing them to do. It's just they choose to be like those workers, and they're contributing to the society, which will lead to a win-win situation. Meaning that first of all, the individual will be benefited by the society. They will have reputation. Second, they will have retirement salary, and third, they will have social benefits. And second, to have the majority will be benefit either because of as we have told you that in COVID-19 times and sometimes like that the transportation and the poor rights to actually protected the majority from being attacked, from being invaded by others. And this is what we are trying to say. Judge, actually, for these reasons, will withdraw ballot for the proposition side. Thank you.
Honorable adjudicator side, government stance is clear. They want a world where the authorities will pay more money and better working environments to these workers in order to make them stop striking. However, even if government implements these measures, there would be no difference. How is this so? Side government did not think of inside the critical service workers' shoes. They work 24/7 day and day. They get enough money, but what matters is the previous sentence. They do not have enough time to do things that they want or spend quality time with loved ones, and they don't have time to, and they don't even get their own privacy since they need to work every day and for these citizens, and these citizens actually maltreat them, and so these people have a lot of stress, and so I think it is justified for them to strike. Our team thinks that it is justified for them to strike under these conditions that they negotiate with the government or authorities and strike for a limited amount of time. So first clash is state-sanctioned discrimination on certain jobs justifiable. So side government stated that there will be a better economy in their world. However, our side should be the one with better economic factors due to the fact that while their economy is stagnant and low since these workers have low morale in wanting to work due to the maltreatment the citizens give to these workers, considering them as second-tier citizens. And not only does this undermine the hard work these workers did, it makes us question the least of dignity a human has. On the other hand, our side has a better economy because worker morale and productivity will go up after they have a strike, and citizens would no longer maltreat them since the citizens would realize that without these workers, they cannot live safely and have a better quality of life. So then there will be a win-win between citizens and these workers and authorities as well, because then these authorities won't live in anxiety that these critical service workers can strike, and these citizens can live safely, and these workers can be provided the least of dignity that they have. And second clash, who better ensures public safety in the long run? Side government stated that our side is letting the majority of the citizens die. However, this is extremely short term, like I mentioned, and there will be way better long-term benefits.
What?
Yes?
As I have told you that there's already labor shortages problem happening now, and you are letting them striking. So how are you gonna solve this shortages problem and protect the majority people?
Okay, so there will be lower labor rights, although there will be lower labor systems, that our side has the upper hand because after these strikes, then people will think these workplaces critical service workers are actually really good jobs, and then they will start to recruit more people. So then there in the end, in the long run, our side wins this POI and the debate. So this short-term harm presented by side government is usually overweighed by the long-term benefits of improved critical service infrastructure, work efficiency, and so much more. Also, like Honorable Deputy Prime Minister has stated in his speech, a heightened public safety by implementing coordinated strikes can, so it can, our model, which is the allowance of critical services from striking while promoting heightened public safety by implementing coordinated strikes. Hence, our site provides a much more realistic approach to this problem. Site government has stated that we're moral kidnapping these workers. However, this is not true because these workers are doing these strikes because they want to, and our side is not forcing them to be moral. We're just making them. We're providing them the least of dignity that a human being should have. So in conclusion, I have provided two clashes, which I believe our team should win. And in conclusion, so proud to propose. Thank you for listening.
We as opposition aspire to protect the rights of critical service workers in order to create a team of workers who can properly and effectively help the general public. The government claims that critical service workers do not encounter problems in their environment and their working conditions are just fine. This is clearly yet another example of critical service workers' underappreciation. As our deputy leader of opposition has stated, all industries have workers who are not satisfied or overworked in their jobs, and said government cannot just outright deny that because they do not know the condition of every single critical service stations. Government keeps insisting that the critical service workers are perfectly okay, but already not having the right to strike is already disproving this. So moving into our first main issue, to our primary main issue of our debate, in which side is better for both parties. Critical service workers are an essential part of the public because they protect, preserve, and maintain the safety of the society. Although government says that strikes risk the lives of the public, and although that may be true, better working conditions are needed in order to efficiently protect the public in the long run. Giving the workers the legal right to conduct a strike not only shows that the government respects the rights of the critical service workers, but also makes strikes more contained and will have minimal harm in the case of a strike. However, on government's model, not only do they fail to provide a sufficient mechanism that will completely get rid of strikes, they do not have this benefit, leading to unexpected, more severe strikes that are more likely to end in harm, chaos, and not be resolved in the end, as our DLO has established. So, due to these reasons, we take this debate home.
We are proud to propose. So first, we went to three clashes and say that why does the proposition totally win this debate? So firstly, first clash is about critical service workers. That's the biggest clash in today's debate because their first speaker always says about critical service workers, right? Their like benefits or stuff. But we probably defeat their argument because we tell you that firstly, we have so many benefits, retire salary, high salary, lower taxes, the other kind of social benefits. These are all benefits that these workers have. And secondly, they choose to become critical service worker. They never say something, but you're saying that they don't want to be this. It's like there's nothing proving this because you're not the critical service worker and you don't know what they're thinking about. And then we tell you about their second point is about economy. The economy will probably win this point because firstly, they're only talking about individual economy, but we're talking about world economy stability, investor confidence, continually of business operation. They failed to rebut all of them. So all of our contention too about economy should all be standing, which is our subpoint A, B, and C. All these 3 points stand. And the argument also stands. It's like price stability in the whole world. That's a huge impact. And judge, you should be buying this. And then about the third one is about long term or short run. I'll say that in the long run, we always win. In the short run, we also win. So then we'll tell you about 2 points. First, it's about the security and healthcare. That's so important because transportation, security guard, and police, nurse, and these are all secure, like social, they're all critical service workers. And for transportation, we're protecting the vulnerable group of people. For other things, we're also protecting every citizen in the city. And then we tell you that about first argument, they never rebutted about security and healthcare. So judge, this also stands. And then about our third contention about dependence on service, we tell you we protect the poor. So that means we also win this argument. So our 3 argument probably always there because they're individual, we're the whole society, and judge, we meet our framework and we are proud to propose, and please vote for the proposition side. Thank you.